the biggest barrier, I mean, it obviously is basically, educating them and informing them of the value proposition in a tokenization versus kind of a traditional instrument like a paper contract.
But the proposition is a very exciting proposition. It's more liquidity, worldwide liquidity, less fees. That kind of sounds simple. I mean, if you were standing in front of an investor, it kind of sounds logical that every investor would invest. But what are the hurdles?
I would say getting to understand that.
I mean, I would say that depending on who you're talking to, right, who your investor base is, if you're talking to a traditional institutional investor, in my case, when you're thinking about venture capital, they're going to say, all right, what do I do with this token when I receive it, right? So in the case of a venture fund, it's a direct economic interest in the venture fund, just like an LP interest would be. And so I think what they would say is, well, how do I custody these tokens? And certainly that's an issue as an industry we're working on, which is custody of these assets. For crypto investors, it's an opportunity for them to diversify their portfolio out of crypto holdings. So it's a way that you can send Ethereum, send Bitcoin, receive a token in return that represents maybe investment into traditional startups, maybe into blockchain-based startups. And so I think the barrier depends on really who you're talking to and who your audience is.
So specifically in your business, you've raised a VC fund. Who's your typical investor?
So I think it's a mix of the two, right? Right now, it's really family offices that we've seen a lot of interest from. And the other big investor is people that have made substantial amounts of money in cryptocurrency that say, listen, I don't really want to go to fiat, but I really like the ability to send you Ethereum, send you Bitcoin, receive a token in return, and I have access to the larger blockchain venture ecosystem through your fund and through your investors.
Allison, over to you.
Well, I think the education is the part with the investors that's the most interesting, and where I find the most challenges is with the true retail base. And we all have like a spiel or an elevator pitch we give, and so the one I gave to my Aunt Florrie, because I feel like if she gets it, everyone will get it, is like, one day we had something called a share, right? Like one day someone described a security as a share, and everyone had paper. And then a few days later, they kept losing the paper, and they said, well, now they're uncertificated shares. All right, we'll call them uncertificated, fine. And what I explained to Anne Florrie is the token is just the evolution of that evidence of a right to profits of a company, and somehow that resonated with her. So helping the people understand that it's not some amorphous thing, and in fact, it's not even a coin, right? There's no coin, right? What you own is a right and a piece of the same economic rights. It's just evidence in a very different way. Then I think the other interesting aspects to bringing a security token to market are just some of the legal hurdles that have to be thought through and jumped over as you bring the coin to market. So most people are relying on what's called 506C under the 33 Act, which allows you to advertise.
I love it when lawyers talk in codes.
Well, I mean, in this case, it's the SEC, right? So there was a ban on general solicitation and advertising for years. And then under Dodd-Frank, they mandated that the SEC remove that. So what did they do? They didn't just delete the line that said, you can't do this. No, they wrote like 700 pages about how you could do it. And in those 700 pages, it doesn't just say you can advertise. There's very specific requirements as to how you determine the accreditation of investors who purchase as a result of those advertising. So again, just working with the right partners like Securitize to make sure that the investors meet those standards is critical, and I think something that I don't think a lot of issuers are really giving deference to.